places that we can go quite easily today that would have been impossible just even 15 years ago. So we're just coming out of the ice from our grand voyage to the North Pole, and we came out about 82 degrees from the fairly serious pack ice, which is 2 degrees north of the northern tip of Svalbard. 2 degrees is roughly 120 nautical miles or 220 kilometers. And had you come or anyone 15 years ago today, that ice would have been all the way down on the top of Svalbard. So in that short period of time, 15 years, not a human lifetime, not a geological age, we've lost that band of ice, not just the 220 kilometers here, but globally all the way around the world. And one of the impacts, but not the only one, is some people would say, well, ice, I'm not going there. It's not a big thing for me. We have the polar bears protected, seals have protections, but what they eat in the food chain originally is growing as phytoplankton and small organisms on the bottom side of ice. As we have gone to the north, we have seen some of the ice turn over. We've seen the coloration of this biological activity. And so I can imagine we have the bears protected, but if we remove the food supply, it has a long-term impact. Now, that's the biological impact in a very narrow sense. But on top of that, once we convert that white ice, which reflects the solar radiation into space and keeps it relatively cool and maintains the weather patterns of the planet Earth, once it gets some heat energy, nothing happens. A little bit more, nothing happens. And then one day, a very small melt pool opens up, maybe a few square meters. That melt pool is darker. It thus absorbs solar radiation. And because it absorbs solar radiation, it then grows, of course, larger. And so you have this, what I call zipper effect, where the dog is chasing its tail bigger and bigger and bigger. And so you can lose an enormous amount of ice in a relatively short period of time. And I think people would think generally that it's a geological age, it's going to happen a long time from now. But the reality of life is up here in the north, in an area the size of Europe or the middle portion of the United States, you've lost over 40% of the sea ice coverage. Well, I think there's several positive aspects that sometimes get glossed over. We have uniquely on board this vessel a wet scientific lab and a dry scientific lab. We maintain a team of scientists. Throughout our voyage from the very beginning, we've been taking water samples. I just spoke to the team this morning, and they were so proud to bring up, they had shown me the profile of the work that we had done at the North Pole overlaid against all the other data sources on the North Pole, which strangely enough aren't that many. So the opportunity to have a team go up to the North Pole, the expense covered, and to get that scientific data, not just at the pole itself, but along the way, is truly precious, not just to us, but for the world community that will share that data. The other part of the process, and I see this in remote locations, Arctic in particular, is most people, it is their first time coming up here. Maybe they will come back, but to have the opportunity to generate 130 polar ambassadors to convey back to their friends, to their neighbors, to their community, to their governments, and lobby for continued protection of the seals and the polar bears, expansion of that protection to be able to address the food chain that we mentioned just a bit earlier, to ensure that that food chain remains, and to deal with the effects of the global warming, climate change, and change in weather patterns and sea level that we have seen evidence of from the very beginning of this voyage